Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Making Sense of It All as a continuation of our series, Professional at Anything But Golf. I'm pleased to bring you Ted Eleftheriou. He's the Vice President of Player Development and Player Engagement for the National Golf Foundation. Ted, did I get that right?
Oh my gosh, great job on that, Jesse. I've been married 37 years and my father-in-law still can't pronounce my last name. So good job.
So I'll tell you, when I was going through the National Golf Foundation's website and I was looking over everything, one of the things that really struck me, it caught my attention more than anything else, was a quote that you guys had on there. And it said, in the past 4 years, nearly 13 million people have played the game of golf for the first time. That's not including those who have played before, took time off from the game, or people who have returned from the game. And it said that it's worth noting that 75% of all of these newcomers are adults. That was astounding to me. I wouldn't have hit that number within millions of that number.
Yeah, isn't that something? And it's funny because I do a lot of workshops and presentations, and it's usually for people in the golf industry. And when I do that, I pose that question, hey, we've had over 13 million try the game of golf in the last several years. How many of them do you think are adults? And the percentage is always like 12, 20%, right around there. And same thing to your reaction. When I tell them it's 75%, they're kind of blown away that it's that much. But why that's important is that when you look at all the programs that are offered, Jesse, to help get people into the game of golf, the majority of them are junior programs, right? As well as they should be because they're the future of golf. But if I was to ask you, how many adult player development for beginners programs are there out there? It's hard pressed to actually come up with any. Golf professionals will tell you, well, of course, I teach beginning adult golfers. And I'm asking like, no, that's not what I'm asking. That are you marketing adult player development programs like group classes or what have you? Because there is a big pool of individuals out there that are looking to get into the game of golf and they don't know where to go or where to find those people that teach adult beginner golfers. So yeah, it's a very important quote and a very important statistic.
Well, and I'll tell you, that's really why I started this series on my podcast was that I looked at all of the content out there. I looked at the way that the golf industry kind of appeals towards people who are trying to enter the game. And you're 100% right. It really is kind of targeted at the juniors, are like the people that I would consider kind of insiders to the game, the people who are going to come up, potentially play it competitively, potentially, go on to either a collegiate or professional career. Those are the people where instruction and kind of that entry point is always focused on. And again, that's why I started this whole series. And I've said that several times throughout my podcast that I've been doing on the golf industry, is that I just felt like there was a need for this. And it kind of reconfirms that when I hear you say that, when I see these numbers, it just kind of confirms the thoughts that I had. And, it makes me feel like kind of you're trying to reinvent the wheel a little bit here because there's other people that are acknowledging this as well. So
Yeah, well said. I'm sorry.
no, you're good. That kind of brings me to, the National Golf Foundation. For those in my audience who don't know what the National Golf Foundation is, tell them who you guys are, what you guys do.
Yeah, thank you. We're actually like three parts. We're like three businesses within one. So the first part is our nonprofit and subsidized from our membership dues that we have. We're able to provide research, data, trends, analysis on what's going on in the golf world to the golf industry as a whole. So that's our not-for-profit thing. We don't profit off of that. The second element of National Golf Foundation is our for-profit part. And that is when we have the big companies and any businesses actually who are looking for a specific data point for their business to help them achieve their goals. They often hire us to do that research for them, to provide that so they can make better business decisions. And then the third part, and one thing that I'm really passionate about and why I was brought on to National Golf Foundation is that it's an education program as well. So really from our genesis back in 1936, the goal of National Golf Foundation was to help golf continue to grow, especially as it was coming off of the days of the big market crashes and what have you, and golf was starting to suffer. So the genesis, it's in our DNA that National Golf Foundation plays a huge part in helping grow the game of golf through more participation and by educating golf industries of what's needed to help them grow. And then overall, the golf industry grows as well.
It's
So that's our
fantastic.
three-part journey. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I want to go back to that first part, the nonprofit side, where you
Yeah.
guys are providing statistical analysis of the game and the business around the game. I know a lot of people, and this is not this is not to shoot holes in anybody's businesses, whether it's a My Golf Spy or if it's, some of these people that kind of tout themselves as a nonprofit, but then, the kind of the scuttlebutt behind the scenes or whatever is that they take money from some of these equipment manufacturers or some people, some of the industry titans, if you will. And so that data ends up kind of skewed towards, where people want it to go. How do you guys prevent that, or how do you guys protect yourselves against, essentially making sure that that data is sound and people can rely on it for what it's intended for?
Yeah, it's great. We're very cautious on that and being very objective to the nonprofit side. And the way that we do that is that we don't rely on a lot of third-party data. We go out there and find it ourselves, as well as maybe talking to some associations that are nonpartisan. But we often go out and we survey golfers in person or people in the golf industry in person. We will do through email surveys as well to find out statistics and what it is that's going on. We'll do in-person events where we'll host an event to have, say, golfers come out, and while they're there, we talk to them about what is it that you're looking for in golf? Where are you in your game of golf? How much golf do you play? Why? Are you playing more or playing less? So all I have to say is we go right to the sources, and we're very particular in keeping it clean that way. We have a database of over 2.5 million golfers that's in it that have come to us through what we've been doing and talking about right now over the years that, hey, we want to be on that survey board. Hey, we want to be that. And golfers aren't looking to like, hey, I'm a ex business person and this is the reason I
Sure.
only play these clubs. But at the same time, if they are telling us this is the only reason that they're playing these clubs, we want to know what it is about that is causing them to play those brand of clubs. So yeah, we're very particular in that part. And we do have, like, my department is more about the nonprofit. And then we do have also a department that's more specifically for the profit. And our two departments, while we talk together, we try to keep those businesses aside and not let them merge into the other.
And I think that's incredibly important. I talk with nonprofits about that all the time, where you really have to have revenue coming in. You have to have multiple streams of revenue so that you stay solvent, so that you continue to have the ability to serve the market that you're in service to do so.
Right.
And I think that sometimes people don't understand that until all of a sudden they're searching for another dollar. So I think
Right.
that's tremendous. I think it's fantastic that you guys have multiple pillars that help keep the National Golf Foundation doing what it's intended to be doing. That all being said, I think one of the biggest things that I just heard from you is that input from your average golfers, input from people when they're filling out those surveys, when they're giving you that data, that's what allows you guys to give them back usable data, usable information to help improve the game of golf for them. So I'm just saying, as a PSA right here, you have the National Golf Foundation doing a survey, you get it in your email, you're at your club and somebody's taking a survey, please fill it out because it's only there to benefit you.
Yeah, 100%. Even though we're, I would say, a business to business type of foundation, reality is that it's indirectly really about the consumer, right? The more we understand golfers' playing habits, golfers' buying habits, golfers' participation habits, and what have you, and we're able to share that data with the golf industry, hopefully the golf industry moves the needle then saying, look at these trends that are coming out. We need to address these trends and either match them or better yet exceed what's going on out in the golf industry so that we could better service our golfers and that we can provide better products for our golfers. So indirectly, what National Golf Foundation does ultimately impacts the golfer. And we're really proud of that.
I don't mean to put you on the spot here because I know I didn't ask you before this interview, so I'm just calling it out first.
All
But
right.
is there anything where you got like one situation or one, kind of survey or compilation of data to where it really did help you guys move the needle for something? Like, is there something that sticks in your mind?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. And there are so many. I mean, we could spend hours here just talking about that. But one thing that I found that along with that, we know that 13 million plus tried the game of golf over the last several years, and 75% of them are adults. We also know that through surveys that there's over 22.4 million people in the United States alone who are very interested in trying the game of golf. And I put that very interested intentionally in there because the survey that went out to non-golfers, if they'd be willing to give golf a try, We just basically put a survey out that had four choices. No, I'm not interested. I'm interested. I'm somewhat interested, or I'm very interested. So 22.4 million people said they were very interested. We didn't even include the somewhat and the interested. And why is that number important? It shows there's still a latent demand that people want to try the game of golf. But back to our point when we first started, is how many adult player development programs are these people able to find? And if the answer is not many, then us as a golf industry needs to do something to not wait for these people to find us, but for us to get off of our properties and proactively go out there and reach out to these people in our communities and saying, you got to come check out golf. It's not what you think. It's not the same thing that your grandparents used to talk about and play and have this. Like, golf is changing with the times, and we're there for you. And it's not as expensive as you think it is, and there's more opportunities than you think it is. And what a great way to share memories with family and friends and be in the great outdoors, and perhaps just even as a personal challenge. So that number alone to me always resonates like, wow, as an industry, what are we doing to capture these? Because pre-pandemic to after pandemic, obviously the golf industry has surged. We're seeing unprecedented numbers as far as people playing golf and enjoying golf. But when we look at golf course participation overall, it's remained basically flat. One of the reasons why we see such a
Interesting.
growth in golf, and there's over 45 million people playing golf in the United States today, is because of places like Top Golf and Drive Shack and the Puttery and the Pottery. It's these offsite facilities who back in 2014, when we first started measuring them, they did about 5.4 million people visited those type of facilities only. And back in those days, it was like over 18 million people who went to golf courses only. And now here we are in 2023, and it's almost flipped. There's 18.5 million people who visit the Top Golf type of facilities only. And when you look at our on-course facility only participation, it's around 12 million. So there's something there. The interest is there. We have to figure out why are the Top Golf so successful, and I think it's because it's fun, it's non-threatening, it's in a social atmosphere with friends and family. There's food and beverages to be drunk and eaten there. And if you top it off the ball, or you barely get it off the tee, it still could score points and everybody laughs and has a great time. Now take that environment to a golf course. You top it off the tee or just make a ball barely advance forward and you're playing with some golfers. It's embarrassing. It's difficult to get around and around the golf.
Right.
It's like, I never want to do this again. This is so brutal. So we have to learn from that. The interest is there. We have to look at ways to make facilities appreciate that more and be more proactive in that.
Well, and it's to your point. I think that first off, just to clarify, I know you said 2023 because that's where the data is from, but we're doing this just so the audience knows this conversation is happening in 2024, but you have to look back for data. You can't get data real time, so you have to look at the year prior. That being, but all of this being said, I think one of the things that I get out of it is that, people have a fear of failure when they're starting something new. There's always a strong fear of failure. But with a game like Top Golf, instead of a game like traditional golf, the failure that you had on your first shot does not dictate the remainder of your score. It doesn't, it's not a tattoo on your scorecard. Whereas with real golf, if you hit a ball over in the trees and then you spend 10 shots trying to get it out of the trees,
Right.
or if you take a penalty stroke and pull it out and put it in the middle of the fairway, or two penalty strokes, or whatever it is, like, it is a permanent black mark essentially that you're gonna remember that 18 holes from now. Whereas with a lot of the new ways that they're introducing the game, it takes a little bit of that fear of failure away, or it allows you to forget what you did the last shot, or the last time you were up hitting 5 or 6 shots before your buddies came up there.
That's right. And to your point, and I always say it, is that just because you go to a restaurant and you have a bad experience doesn't mean you'll never go to another restaurant again. And
There.
we have to help golfers realize if they have a not so good experience, we need to convince them like, hey, that's not how it always is going to be. And back to being the data nerd and all that from being here, when we surveyed beginning golfers who got into the game and found out why they stayed or why they left, we found out that 1 out of 5 golfers who started golf took lessons. Only 1 out of 5 from a
Wow.
PGA or LPGA, a qualified professional. 1 out of 5 learned or got introduced to the game of golf by a family member or a friend. Now, Jesse, you've been around the driving ranges enough that when you see a husband or somebody trying to coach a wife and saying, "Hey, keep your head down, bend your knees more, bend over." Like I said, keep your head down. Now let that left arm be. It's probably not the best way to be introduced to the game of golf, right?
Yeah,
It's
that
probably
night's probably going
more
to be
harm
not
than
much
good.
fun either.
That's right. And from what I've seen, most of these people that are giving these golf tips are not any good themselves, right? And then the astounding 3 out of 5, the remaining 3 out of 5 are people who just venture out on a golf course on their own and try to figure it out. So back to like my pet peeve or my mission is that we need to find a way to make that number 1 out of 5 taking lessons to like maybe 3 to 4 out of 5 taking lessons. Because I do believe lessons will benefit the beginner golfer, but we have to provide it in a fun way as well. So one thing that I'm really big on is that I was big on group lessons when I had my own academy for beginners versus one-on-ones. I would actually
100%.
try to discourage them. And then we're in that group class. I usually do a series of 4 90-minute sessions. And first class was like a tour of the facility, showing them where the golf shop is, where to change, what a bag drop is out in the parking lot, what have you. And then it was about meeting some of the staff. Here's the person behind the counter who's going to tell you how to check in for a tee time or how to make a tee time. And here's our food and beverage person, all that. And then in addition to that, it's like a little bit of a how-to. Like, hey, here's how you would strap your golf clubs on the back of a golf cart so they don't fall out. Or like, hey, before putting the token in on the range ball machine, it's probably better to put the bucket in the spout first and then the token because the first way doesn't work so well, right? So letting them know how to maneuver on the golf course. And then on the very first lesson, I've kind of been taught because I'm a PGA member that you start from the hole outwards. So you teach putting to chipping, the pitching, the half swing, the full swing. But on our very first lesson, we believe that you have to get somebody emotionally engaged into golf. And the way to do that is you teach them little basic grip stance posture, a little L to L half swing. You put a ball on a tee that's 2 inches high. You give them a high lofted club like a 9 iron or wedge. And if in the first lesson somebody pops that ball up in the air, regardless if it's 30 yards, 50 yards, or what have you, they're emotionally hooked. They feel they can play the game. They're giving each other high fives. Many times they would say, Coach, take a look. Did you see that shot? They're excited. We hear stories that they went home and they told their spouses or significant others, you're not going to believe this. I got the ball up in the air. I think I can play this. This is so much fun. You should come with me next time. And to my knowledge, Jesse, I get the idea of starting from putting, chipping, building some traditional type of golf swing from it.
Sure.
But I don't think anybody ever went home and said, honey, you're not going to believe this. So the coach had us putting from 3 feet away from the hole. And I made some putts. It's so exciting. Can't wait. I mean, it's just like putt course. It's no different. So that first time of getting a person hit a ball in the air on the very first class goes back to like doing away with those people having a poor experience on their own in the golf course, like you said, in the woods and in the trees and penalty shots. And I'm not sure if you were talking about me, and if you are, we can talk after the show. But that first experience has to be amazing. And then lesson 2 and 3, you get them like doing a little bit more of the skill set. And lesson 4 has to take place on the golf course. We want instructors to take people out there because that's where the game is played. And I don't see enough of that going on. And then finally, during our surveys, and we surveyed beginning students, how much interaction did their golf coaches have after their lesson series finished? And what's kind of sad to say is that only 8% of instructors actually followed up with their students afterwards. Now, think back if you've ever had lessons, did your
Sure.
coach ever send you a thank you note afterwards or picked up the phone and called you or send you an email to say, hey, how's it going, Jesse? Any questions? And then those 8%, the majority of them, the correspondence was, hey, would you like to take more lessons? You ended your
Right.
series. Let's sign you up for another series, right? So we need to do a better job of managing that process with our golfers as well. And I think that's a great important factor with all businesses. Actually, when you think of all the businesses that we do business with, how many of them actually follow up with us afterwards to see how we're doing? Do we understand their product or their service? Do we have any questions? We need to be the ones that are proactive versus waiting for people to come to us saying, hey, I got a problem, or like, I don't understand this, or I went through your series and I'm no longer playing golf and here's the reason,
Right.
right? So yeah, those are some of the things that I take away from it as well.
I do I mean, my day job is I'm in relationship management and in sales. And the reality of it is that the golf business or any business, I mean, that's a huge part of it. You have to build relationships, you have to manage those relationships. And what I always tell people is people do business with people. And so
Right.
they're not just buying a golf lesson, or they're not just taking a golf lesson. They're looking for somebody who's going to have a relationship with them and who is going to be there. I joke around all the time, and I'll say, it's, you know, like, person who's coaching me in golf is kind of like, it's my Gandhi to my faith, or my, it's my, it's the guy, it's my guide to my, my fishing trip or whatever. It's like the whole thing is about experience. That's what it is. I mean, people are paying money they're paying money for recreation, for entertainment,
Right.
or because they want to enjoy it, especially when they're getting involved in it. They may choose to be competitive at it later down the road,
Sure.
but they have to be entertained by it. They have to be emotionally hooked before any of that ever matters. So I think you're spot on.
Yeah, and well said. And I think it goes beyond even skill set development, right? Us as coaches need to find a way to make it as exciting as Top Golf when you're dribbling the ball off the tee out on the golf course, to help them find ways to still enjoy the game, even though their skill set's not there. Which means that telling the beginner, hey, it's okay to tee up the ball anywhere you want on the golf course
Mm-hmm.
until you're able to hit it off the ground. Or like, hey, rather than starting on this hole that's 440 yards long, let's move you up to the 50-yard marker and let's start the hole from there. And instead of counting score, let's just count how many good shots you had on each hole, and that. So there are ways to do it. But part of it too, the golf surge has been good and bad. And the reason is because right now golf courses are opening their doors and so many people are flooding in and wanting to play, those who have been playing,
Sure.
that sometimes there's not as much attention to the new golfers because, like, hey, we're doing pretty good. We don't have to like make time for the new golfers out there or squeeze them in front of groups or put them at the 50-yard marker. They'll figure it out. And that's to me like a danger point where
Short-sighted.
short-sighted, right? It's kind of like I'm in Jupiter, Florida, and right near the coast here, and there's always riptide warnings, right? And riptides are basically the waves come in, but then they have to go back out. And these riptides are like little underwater streams. And if you get caught in that and you're not paying attention, you can get drifted out and get into trouble. And it's the same thing with this. We want to make sure that the riptides in golf, that we're aware is as this surge is coming in, we should be prepared in case that one day we find that statistically, hey, we didn't grow from last year, or hey, maybe we even went a little bit down last year. So now's the time to be aware of those riptides so we can take the appropriate action.
I think you're spot on again, and I think that I mentioned this to somebody else as well. Golf, like, COVID, whatever you want to call it, the pandemic, it brought a ton of people into the game because people had to get outside and they had to find something to do.
Yep.
So they went to golf. Pickleball became very, very popular. There's a lot of things outside that became very popular. But as those tides are going out, the one thing that I have seen that really has made me, I understand it, but I've seen membership rates as far as initiation dues and just the daily fee on public golf courses go through the roof compared to what it was pre-pandemic. And I understand that things like fertilizer and costs of labor and everything has increased, so it's fair. Those things are fair, but they're also thinking we have so much supply when it comes to golfers coming in and wanting to play the sport that we can charge basically whatever we want to right now.
Right. Right. And if the service is no
So,
different pre-pandemic as it is now, like it's hard to justify, well, why is that increase happening if I'm getting the same, let's just say, not so good service that I was before with the grumpy marshals on the course
100%.
speed up. The person behind the counter is not even making eye contact, just have their head buried and say next. So yes, so you can justify some of that increase if you're saying like, hey, and we're doing a better job at this. But to
Right.
your point, you're right. The reason we saw the golf surge, back to the NGF data, was one, that it was one of the few things that even government supported, saying, hey, it's good for you to get out and play some golf. And it was the few
Yeah.
things that was open to the public. It was good mentally to get people out of their homes, and physically to get people back on the fresh air, and to some extent having some social interaction with others. The other part was the media took a different turn towards golf. Pre-pandemic, the headlines were like brutal. I mean, we would get calls from media all the time and they would ask us for information, but it was always to put a negative spin on golf. I remember seeing articles like, hey, golf is back in the Olympics. Who cares, right? Or
Right.
like, golf courses are burning. What are we going to do with all this land now as they collapse? And burning meaning that they're closing down and what have you. But now the media is like, hey, golf is good. Hey, get out there. Hey, golf is surging. Golf is fun, you know? And then the third part with that hybrid work environment where people get to work from home when pandemic happened would find themselves like either starting later in the day on their work and squeezing a few holes in before that day started, or starting earlier in the day and work and finishing earlier, and as a result going out and playing a few holes afterwards. So that brought an interest back in core golfers, those who were playing before the pandemic, to play more golf. And that's one of the reasons why golf is thriving, is because of that boost that we got. When you look at our marketing stuff, we're not really doing anything much different in the industry. And we're not offering, again, like, hey, the reason why we're increasing our rates is because, and then giving that
Sure.
explanation. So, yeah.
No, I think that's fantastic. It kind of leads us kind of where we were going with this is that the National Golf Foundation and yourself, you got an initiative called Welcome to Golf,
Mhm.
where you guys are trying to attract new players to the game. So tell us a little bit about Welcome to Golf and what you guys are doing with this.
Yeah, thanks for asking. And I'm really passionate about it, clearly, as you can probably tell.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. um, yeah, Welcome to Golf is an initiative that we've been working on, and our board, which we report to, has agreed to get us to do this. And we're putting a lot of money into this program. And we're starting off with about 10 to 12 facilities out in the United States at different locations, different demographics, seasonal, non-seasonal, what have you. And you probably, or your listeners, haven't heard of it because we're kind of keeping it under the wire right now. These facilities, while they're running Welcome to Golf programs, are kind of like in the development stage. Dare I say, we're almost using them as laboratories. And what we're doing is we're talking to their students afterwards and to the instructors. What's working? What's not working? What can we do better? How do we change this? And what have you? And we're starting to accumulate all this data and the research that we're doing. Why are people still playing golf after a year? Why are they not playing golf after a year? And what we've determined is a little bit like we said, the first class needs to be a tour of the facility, meet some people, some how-tos, and get that ball airborne. The last class needs to be out on the golf course so people actually enjoy what the course is all about as well. But in between there, we're finding out that a lot of people don't take up golf or make that move, that step towards golf instruction, golf experiences, whatever you want to call it, because they're fearful. They don't know what to expect. Who do they call when they show up at a facility wearing jeans and a t-shirt? How do they know that they didn't show up to a facility that's a private club that has a strict dress code? So what we're finding out is that fear factor of trying the game for the first time, some because of experiences they've had in the past, some because of what they heard, whether they're myths or not, like golf is expensive, golf is like you got to wear a certain kind of dress code, golf is this and all that. Um, our goal is to downplay that, but to find solutions. So Welcome to Golf is not an instruction program per se. What it is we're creating a digital platform, a website that'll have about 10 to 12 what we're calling chapters or episodes that'll be kind of lighthearted and fun. And there will be stuff like we're talking there. How do you know what you should wear before you get started in golf and you go to
Right.
how do you find an instructor that you can work with to help achieve your goals? How do you operate a golf cart? Because we think sometimes, well, people drove to the golf course, but as you know, getting into an electric cart sometimes is a lot different than coming in your gas-powered vehicle. Or if you do come in Tesla, there's still a lot of things there. Um, so Welcome to Golf is to address all the gaps from a golfer, a potential golfer sitting on the couch, deciding whether or not they should play golf or not, to the golf course experience when they finally get there. How do we fill in that gap? So it's going to be kind of a search vehicle engine. It's going to be a place where golfers can know what to do before they even get to the facility. And finally, we believe that nowadays, if I was somebody looking to take up to the game of golf, I probably wouldn't even drive around, find a golf course, visit the facility, and ask questions. One, it's much more safer for me to get on my laptop or my computer, go into the digital world, go online, type in, how do I get started in golf? And we want Welcome to Golf to be the first thing that pops up so that when people get there, they kind of know what to do to get started in golf. And then we'll leave the golf instruction part to the instructors. So there's my long answer, but our goal is probably about early to mid 2025 is that we're going to launch the website. It's almost done now. Now it's about us populating the right content. Eventually, we see the website not only being a consumer-facing one, But then that maybe, just like our 10 to 12 facilities we have now, we create a welcome to golf certification program for instructors who want to be part of it. We're not going to force anything, who believe in the way that we do, like to get started in golf, this is the way to do it. And then we're going to match the two together. Hey, consumers, here's what you should know beforehand. Good news. Type in your zip code here, and we'll point you to a welcome to golf facility that's near you. And then, hey, instructors, good news. We got millions of people coming to our website, and now we want to match them up with you so that you benefit from it. And thanks for being a part of our program, and let's help support you as we grow together.
No doubt. I think it's fantastic. As far as from that, you're a PGA professional yourself. So you have a unique perspective on it. But as far as the PGA professionals, are you getting buy-in on this? Are they seeing the value in it? Are they pushing back a little bit? What are you seeing?
Yeah, great. So the good news is when we were starting to launch this, I wasn't even really proactively looking for facilities. And one person caught wind of it and said, "Hey, sign me up," who's a PGA professional
Nice.
and a very good one as opposed to that, and as in addition to that. Then I got a master professional who I knew from back ages ago, and he said, "Hey, you know what? I'd love to find out about what this is. You ever think of doing one on our site?" And I believe you had Coach Mo on one of your podcasts, or you were in one of her podcasts, and she's just a dynamo, and she's up in the Jacksonville area at St. John's Club, and she wanted to be a part of this as well. And she's just so awesome. She's got that energy and the same passion. So yeah, our goal is to like get these facilities to get them to a point where we need to get them, and then yeah, go out to the public and make it known. And as a result of that, we haven't even really approached the PGA or the LPGA. They're aware that we're doing something, but we want to, before we go out there and say, hey, we have this concept and we think it's going to work, we want to be able to have the numbers to support that it does work, and then say, hey, this is going to benefit your PGA and LPGA professionals. Let's get you guys on board as well. And again, we're not going to force anybody into it. If you want to be a part of it, great. If not, well, we kind of don't want you to be a part of it if you don't believe in it,
Right.
because that's what's going on now. And golf isn't really growing that much with the methods we're using currently.
I was just thinking the same thing. To me, I think it's much better that you guys are developing this focused on the audience that you're building it for, and then incorporate the people who like from the golf industry kind of on a not, I guess you could say secondary, but I mean not in a slighting way, but in a way to where it's saying, hey, this works.
Right.
We're proving that this works. Jump aboard if you want to, if you want it to benefit your business. I think it's
Yeah.
tremendous.
Yeah, because if it doesn't work, and so far the proof has been positive, but if it
Sure.
doesn't work, we don't want to have like one egg on our face. Oops, the National Golf Foundation with all the data and research has like dropped the ball on this. And then if it doesn't work, we just quietly go away. Nobody even know that it was part of it. But we have every belief that it's going to. And interesting enough, we have a budget for the web development. We have a budget for production company to come in and actually shoot the videos professionally. This isn't going to be just like, a Mickey Mouse job, so to speak. Uh,
Fantastic.
yeah, no. So, but we also feel that the majority of our financial involvement in this is going to be on getting the word out. So we are going to go to the associations and ask for help. Like, hey, can you promote this through your members and tell them about it? We're going to go to the public, and who knows, we might have banners at like Walmarts or Targets or where non-golfers would go to, and they might stumble against the sporting aisle and see a banner that says, "Welcome to golf. Have you ever considered trying golf? 3.5 million people did last year. You should too." And then on beginner sets of boxes, those like everything in the box that you need to get started, it's got like 7 clubs, a bag, a glove, a few balls, and what have you. Maybe there's QR codes on there. Scan here and get started in golf the right way. So the majority of our efforts after we get this completed is going to go towards that marketing and getting the word out to drive that millions of golfers at our website.
I think that's amazing. I think it's a great, unique, different approach than what has been taken in the past.
And you heard it here first, folks.
Well, and along those lines, Ted, one of the things that really impressed me, one of the first times that you and I had spoken, was the fact that you really did kind of come from the audience that this podcast is for. You were professional at anything but golf to start your professional career. Tell my audience a little bit about your background and where you started in your 20s, and how in the world did you ever become a golf professional in the first place?
Really, Jesse, you're going to put me on the spot like that, huh? No, to your point, I'm from a town in Massachusetts called Fitchburg, and often people say Pittsburgh. No, Fitchburg. My dad thought it'd be a good idea for me to go caddy at a golf course just to have something to do to stay off the streets, and I fell in love with it. But I remember I was working in the golf shop one day, and here I was like a teenager, and the golf pro that was there just got his paycheck, and he says, "Hey, if you ever want to become a golf pro, take a look at this first." And he throws it at me. And I remember like picking it up, and on it was $111. And that's what his pay was for the week. Because he relied on like tips, and the golf pros, the head pro would give him some extra money and all that. But I remember
Right.
at that point thinking, I am never going to become a golf pro. This is ridiculous, right? And these guys work like 6, 7 days a week, morning till night. But as it would be, I ended up getting a job as a computer data analyst for General Electric, a systems programmer. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. I was in a closed environment. I wanted to be outdoors more. And at the time, I was playing in a heavy metal band too. So me and my bandmates said, "Hey, let's move to Los Angeles, see if we can make it big." So needless to say, I don't have the long hair and all that. That's a clue that I didn't exactly make it where I wanted to. But it was during that time in LA that was just amazing. And I took a job just delivering paints just so I can have time to practice and no pressure afterwards and what have you. And it happened to be that the route that I had was delivering to many movie studios. And there was one studio called Mansfield Studios I was delivering the paints to, and I was waiting for the person to sign. And I heard him on the phone saying, like, "Yeah, if we don't get somebody in here, I can't be the stage manager all by myself. I need some rest too. And this is a 7-day-a-week job." After he got off the call, I wrote my name on a piece of paper and gave it to him, said, like, "Hey, I don't really know much about this, but I'd be interested." 2 weeks later, he calls me up. "How soon can you start?" He
Nice.
started turning me into things of film. I spent 8 years in the film industry, eventually working up to a freelance producer. But much like happened last year, the Screen Actors Guild went on strike. There were no jobs in Hollywood. People were losing their homes. And it was at that time a cameraman said to me, "Hey, let's go play golf. Have you ever played golf before?" And I said, "I used to when I was a kid." And that was the turning point in my career where I got into golf. I fell in love with it. That day, I went into the golf shop and said, "Do you have any volunteer positions just so I can hit balls and play and get better in this?" And one thing led to another, went from volunteer to working in the shop to taking over junior programs to instruction. And I really loved the instruction part of golf. And that's what took my career to a variety of places, including where I am today at NGF. I worked for the PGA. I had 2 successful golf academies. I worked with Nike for a while, opening up academies for them. And I just love it. It's just something that I see myself doing for the rest of my time here on this planet.
Very cool. The one question that I have out of that is I can't imagine what plays on your speaker in your while you're playing golf if you're a heavy metal fan.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't have a lot of people that want to play with me because of that. I'll send you my playlist later.
Fair. Brad,
Okay.
if people listen to this, if they like what they've heard, if they're interested about getting involved with NGF, if they just want to learn more from you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, thanks so much. Fortunately, my email address is teleftheriou@ngf.org. You can look it up. If you go to NGF's website, and it's just ngf.org. And I encourage you listeners, whether they're business professionals or maybe golfers or wannabe golfers, we do have a free newsletter and no strings attached. It's absolutely free on our website. It's called Short Game. And if people sign up for that, every 2 weeks, they'll get an email in their inbox that just has what's going on in the industry at that time. So it's like super informative. So for those golfers who are kind of geeks and like to know a little bit about the behind the scenes, they should do that. And then for those businesses, whether they're in golf or not, there's a lot of good stuff in there that talks to businesses about what's going on, why that matters, and what we can do. So that's ngf.org. And then I encourage everybody that probably mid to next year to be on the lookout. But eventually, we're going to have our website out, and it's basically welcome with the number 2 golf.com. So those are the things that I think will benefit everybody on the show.
I appreciate you saying that. We'll make sure
Thank
that
you.
people have links to everything at the bottom of this when we release it. I think if you ever had an autobiography, it would probably be called Headbangers Boardroom in the Golf Course. What do you think about that title?
That's pretty good. My wife and I actually talked sometimes about writing a book, and we were saying like we should call it When the Snow Finally Settles. And the reason is because, like in snow globes, just when everything settles to the bottom, somebody comes and shakes it up again to see it. And that seems to be our life. Every stage, there's somebody like, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do this year and then forever. And then somebody comes and shakes it up, and a new opportunity comes. But I think I like yours better.
I don't know. I'm not going to challenge your wife on that one. Ted, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I love the conversation. I hope I get to have you back soon. And especially when you guys launch Welcome to Golf, I'll make sure that you're on the show and you can put it out to everybody.
I really, really appreciate it. And I had an absolute blast being here, Jesse. I mean, it's like talking to an old friend, which I consider you.
Awesome.